really interesting is that the Bible actually calls him a prince. See, he's actually chief over the heavenly armies because Michael is the very protector of Israel. So it's definitely safe to say that Michael would have looked like a straight-up warrior. See, Lucifer was probably a seraphim. Seraphim are these angels that have 6 wings that cover parts of their body. But this is a thing they would have done probably out of respect for God. And rumor has it that Lucifer was in fact a seraphim, the highest ranking angel in heaven. If this is really true, then what Lucifer would have looked like is this fiery but beautiful bunch of wings. But what about the rest of the fallen angels who came down to Earth? I mean, what did they look like? Well, there is this other story about a group of ancient gods called the Anunnaki. You see, if you go back in time around 4,000 years ago, you'll find these Sumerian tablets depicting gods who have 4 wings, which would be just how many wings the biblical cherubim would have. Of course, they don't look exactly the same, but it's still very curious that the Anunnaki look just like angels. After Cain kills his own brother Abel, he actually just ends up building a city. See, this was the very first murder in history, so Cain was kicked out of his house. But by Genesis 4, Cain has now built an entire city. So my question is, how did he even do this? Well, there is this one civilization called Ancient Sumeria. They were one of the first people to use things like copper and bronze, and they made huge advancements in specifically farming animals. But what's very interesting is that these people actually believed in this group of gods called the Anunnaki. Legend has it that they came down to Earth and taught humans how to do civilization. But here's the thing that just blows my mind. This is what these gods look like.
Okay, so I'm beginning to believe that even though it was 200 fallen angels that fell, okay, could it be, just me, could it be that they were fallen angels, watchers, watching over the earth? Could it be different type of watchers, all adding up to 200 that fell? Possibility. Just something to think about, Israel.
They look just like angels, and it actually just gets so much weirder. You see, ancient Sumeria was founded in around 4000 BC, and if you just do the math, Cain would have built his city in around that exact same time. It even says that the very first livestock farmers and craftsmen were specifically the children of Cain. Well, there is this one book called the Book of Enoch. It's not scripture, but it tells us this story of 200 fallen angels who come down to Earth. Those angels had known deep secrets about the universe, which just seemed like magic to us. They end up revealing this knowledge and technology from the heavens, which leads humanity to be able to build advanced, large, conquering civilizations. So ultimately, we ended up worshiping them as our gods. See, I think this book is telling the same story of ancient Sumeria, except these are not gods, but fallen angels. I think the reason why Cain was able to build the world's first city was because he had help from those same fallen angels. Except in ancient Sumeria, 6,000 years ago, they would have been called the Anunnaki.
I'm gonna give away this incredible $4,000. Wait, no, not this one. This incredible $4,000.
There's this very strange type of angel called the Ophanim. Ezekiel describes them to be these wheels within wheels, almost like a vehicle, except this thing is alive. The Bible describes them to be covered in these eerie eyes, which is kind of a mystery, because even though the Ophanim are alive, Ezekiel really makes them see.
And that will can you imagine that coming down to the earth, looking bunch of eyes on the wheel, within the wheel? Very scary. Very scary.
Like some kind of unidentified flying object. Now, Gabriel is an archangel. He has this very human appearance, and believe it or not, the Bible never actually mentions him having any wings. What's very interesting is that the Bible doesn't actually say that Gabriel was an archangel, even though this is mainstream.
The angels don't need wings when they're going through in and out of different dimensions and portals. Why would they need wings? They could just walk through portals, coming through different dimensions. They don't need wings. None of them. Nowhere in the scriptures does it say that they had wings. But we know that they can come through portals. just that we just can't see them.
True knowledge. This piece is only found in the book of Enoch. But what about the Nephilim? Genesis 6:4 says that there were Nephilim in the earth in those days. So what did they look like? There is this ancient book called the Book of Giants. It's the story that speaks of these fallen angels who come down to earth. They bring both knowledge and absolute havoc. But what really blows my mind is just this one sentence. It literally says that these angels took 200 beasts of the field from every animal, from every bird, for miscegenation. Miscegenation is a form of crossbreeding. And in this case, it's...
Okay, but in the book of Enoch and in Genesis, it says fallen angels. Never did it say at one time what the fallen angels actually look like or were or named. It just says fallen angels or watchers. So we really don't know if they were the Anunnakis or just simply the fallen angels. That's why I said, was it different fallen angels that were watchers, watching over the earth?
like genetics. It's the very highest form of science, and according to this book, these angels would have been mixing and matching different animals to create something new. You see, now the question is, what would a fallen angel possibly want to create? This kind of Bible is called a Sefer. Sefer just means document or book in Hebrew, but it's really just a Bible. The only differences with this book is that it actually comes with the Apocrypha included in it. It has the Book of Jubilees, the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, 1st and 2nd Baruch, the Wisdom of Solomon, as well as a couple other books that are not included in most Bibles. Now, to be completely honest with you, I don't actually care that it has the Apocrypha. If you didn't know, they're free online. Every single one of them. The reason why I like it is more because of the...
I had the Sefer Bible. I enjoyed the Sefer Bible, reading about Jubilee, Jasher, and Enoch, and so many others that we know that's not in the KJV. But a lot of hidden knowledge got thrown away, unfortunately, by my daughter. But I'm going to get another Sefer Bible because I enjoy reading it.
The way it was written. See, if I go to Genesis, right off the bat, it's not even called Genesis, it's called Bereshit, and I'm pretty sure that's the original name of Genesis. It never uses the words God, Jesus, or the Holy Spirit. See, this book uses words like Elohim, Ruach HaKodesh, which makes this book a million times more complicated, and I love it. It takes a little time to get used to at first, but like after a while, you're like reading Hebrew. See, in this book, it talks about this group of fallen angels who came down to Earth. And interestingly, they would have landed on a mountain called Mount Hermon. You see, they came down to Earth for only one reason, and that was to find for themselves wives. This was obviously a highly severe crime against God. So it turns out that the very leader of the fallen angels, Semyaza, gets scared. He didn't want to take...
Right, because they were fallen angels. Never at any point in time were they supposed to lay with women. Because they were holy angels. They were angels. Most High's angels. Even though they were watchers, they were still angels. And they were not supposed to lay with women, nor were they supposed to teach them different things that they knew. Some things they were never supposed to have known, yet they taught them. And that's what made the Most High so mad at them.
Take all the blame for leading his angels astray. So in response, the fallen angels bind themselves together in a mysterious oath. No angel could back out of this plan anymore. Now, fast forward to 1896, when this British explorer finds this ancient pillar on Mount Hermon. Conveniently, he finds these Greek inscriptions talking about an oath. It says, according to the great and holy God, those who take an oath proceed from here. But here's the interesting part. The God in this text is not the God of the Bible. The God in this text is actually the false god, Baal. See, there are over 30 ancient temples found in this specific area alone, which were used by the Canaanites and the Romans for pagan worship. Even the United Nations has a base here. You see, the fallen angels landed specifically on Mount Hermon, and it was there where they would become the false gods of the ancient world. Adam and Eve were actually the very first homeless people in history. See, after getting kicked out of the Garden of Eden, they now had to fend for themselves in almost every single way. Seeing as these were the very first humans in existence, my question is, where did they even go? Well, there is this ancient book called
Get online in minutes. Web.com's AI builder makes it easy. Simply tell us some info about
the Book of Jubilees. Apparently, it's a history book, which they say is written by Moses himself. And according to this book, Adam and Eve actually end up going to this land called Elda. See, one day, Adam finds this mountain in a very distant land, and this was where they would end up settling down as a family, because soon enough, Eve would end up giving birth to Cain and Abel. But this is what just blows my mind. See, according to this book, Eve would also end up having 2 daughters. The first one was named Awan, and the second one was named Azura. And after Cain kills his brother and gets kicked out of his house, he actually ends up taking Awan as his wife. Now, this obviously created a slight problem. Now that their only living son was gone, who would be the one to marry Azura? It truly is a mystery what happened to the wives of the fallen angels. After being taught these hidden secrets from the heavens, they would go on to be mothers of entire generations defiled by magic. You see, these women were the very first witches in history, but this is what landed them a truly bizarre punishment. See, according to Enoch, the wives of the fallen angels would have been turned into sirens. This is supposedly where we get the legend of the mermaid, except there is this little problem. This is not a siren. See, the original siren myth comes from ancient Greece, and the earliest records we have are from like 300 BC. The original legend says that sirens actually look like birds. These sirens would fly around boats, luring sailors with their enchanting voices, ultimately shipwrecking them into the rocky shores. See, if the wives of the fallen angels were really turned into sirens, then actually they would have looked more like birds. I suspect those women did not become mermaids in the ocean, but rather songbirds of the deep blue sea. You are actually blessed if you just realize that you need God, because the kingdom of heaven has always been yours. You are truly blessed if you are broken and drowning, because God promises He will build you back up. But Jesus also had these haunting words of caution, because apparently murder begins in the very heart of a man. So He urges you to not even be angry with anyone, or else God may charge you for murder. He also warns us about how potent adultery is, because even looking at another person with lust leads to the very same punishment. And Jesus really emphasizes this binding nature of marriage, really telling us that what God has put together, absolutely no one can take apart. See, Jesus actually forbids us to take oaths and promises altogether, because let's be honest, they're mostly worthless anyway. He just wants you to be truthful when you speak, because Jesus says that anything else is straight from the devil. Ladies and gentlemen, you are the salt of the earth, and Jesus commands you to flavor this world. He says to glorify God specifically and only in anything you do, so that creation can look upon creation and marvel at its creator.